Hey guys, Ryan Kearns here. Thanks so much for coming today. And I'm going to start off by saying, let's get the comments going down below. Comment, let me know what you think. Today we're talking about Lyme disease diagnosis. Alright, and I know that if you have Lyme disease, you've had some problems with diagnosis. You probably know the problems with diagnosis. There are problems here, guys. There's some serious problems. So we're gonna talk about that today, and it just so happens that Lyme disease is extremely hard to diagnose, and a lot of people are not getting the diagnosis that they need in order to get coverage from their insurance or in order to get treated by a doctor. And it's really disappointing, and it's kind of a flaw in the Lyme disease community. So today we're going to talk about Lyme disease diagnosis, all the different ways to do it, and stay till the very end because I'm going to tell you the best possible way to get a diagnosis for Lyme disease. Alright, so the first test is called an ELISA test, and I'm sure you know about this. If you have Lyme disease, there's a good chance you've taken this test in the past. I know that most doctors, whether it's at the ER or a family doctor or whatever, they all give you the ELISA test. It's one of the first tests they give, and guys, this test is garbage, okay? Here's the thing, they're testing for your antibodies, not for the bacteria itself. That right there should tell you it's flawed. How the heck do they know if your antibodies are the same as the next person's? How do they know if your antibodies are there because they're reacting to Lyme disease or something else? Because, you know, these antibodies aren't just for Lyme disease. It's not like we have antibodies in us that are like, all right, Lyme disease antibodies, go. No. There's two types of antibodies that they test for, IgM and IgG antibodies. And it turns out that IgM antibodies fall off by week 8 of infection. Alright, so if you're past week 8 of infection, which you probably don't know how deep into infection you are, you probably just woke up feeling crappy one day and don't know how it happened. After week 8, it completely falls off. You know, those antibodies aren't going to keep reacting beyond week 8 usually. So that's a real flaw when they're doing a diagnosis based on those antibodies. And then you have the IgG antibodies, which are present for pretty much forever after you're getting the symptoms. So once you contract the disease, the IgG antibodies will stay within you for almost ever. You'll have them in you for a really, really long time, meaning that they'll be there whether or whether not you have the Lyme disease microbes living inside your body. So it's really important to realize that those two things are not going to guarantee that you have Lyme disease, and they're also not going to guarantee that you don't have Lyme disease. In fact, 50% of patients show negative when they are positive for Lyme disease. So how can we trust a test that's only 50% accurate? That's like flipping a coin, right? All right, this test is garbage. The next test is known as a Western blot test, and this test is a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit more accurate. Okay, so they take different parts of the Lyme microbes, put them in like petri dishes, and then they're known as bands. All right, then they take your blood serum and they test it against each band to see how your blood reacts with the microbes. All right, so whether it reacts with the microbes or not, will tell them whether or not you already have Lyme disease. So that test sounds pretty great. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good test, but it doesn't tell you everything because it doesn't tell you whether or not the microbes are living inside your body. So it can tell you how your blood is reacting to those microbes, or it can tell you how your blood would react to those microbes. You know, how can they know if your blood already has it in there if they're just doing a Western blot? So a Western blot is a little bit more accurate, probably like somewhere around 60 to 80% accurate, which is great compared to the ELISA test, but it's still not perfect, right? It's still not going to bring home the diagnosis every single time. So that's something that you want to look out for. Also, you want to ask, if you do get a Western blot test, you want to know which bands it reacted with, because sometimes things are changing. You know, some papers say that these bands need to react. Some papers say that different bands need to react in order to get a Lyme disease positive result. So that means, your doctor has to be on the same page as the lab, and the lab has to be on the same page as everybody else with what exactly constitutes positive for Lyme disease as far as which bands react with your blood. Alright, so that's just something else to take into account. The third test is a PCR test, and what that is they find the DNA of a microbe and expand it to a size large enough for human analysis so they can understand what DNA it is, match it to the DNA of a microbe, and say, okay, this is clearly you have this microbe in your body, therefore you have Lyme disease. Here's the problem with PCR testing. It sounds almost foolproof because they're actually looking at the bacteria itself this time, but it turns out that the microbes get to such low levels within the body. When they're trying to survive, they insist, they roll up in little balls. They're not that easy to find within the body. It's not like you can just take blood out of someone and, all right, this has the microbes in it. You don't know whether or not you're going to be able to find it at all, let alone find a sizable piece where you can blow it up to the size where you could see its DNA. All right, so PCR test sounds promising, but the truth is it's just so hard to find this Lyme disease spirochetes within the body that, it's not as realistic as you might originally think when they're talking about PCR testing and testing for the DNA of the bacteria. However, there is some moves being made in this area. That's all I'm going to say. I'll let you know the best method at the very end of this. But, if they can figure out a way to get the count of spirochetes up in the blood or up in the body, and then withdraw them from the body somehow, and then test for them, PCR testing could be extremely promising. So that's where the money shot is. That's where everything is. And all right, so those were the 3 tests administered by doctors and labs and stuff. But there's another test. All right, there's another test. It's called the challenge test. This is where they basically guess what you have. Right? They might say, all right, you're showing symptoms of Bartonella, so I'm going to say you have Bartonella. I'm going to give you this herbal tincture for Bartonella. Take this herbal tincture and let me know what happens. If your symptoms worsen right away, if they spike up right away, they'll say, okay, that's good, you probably have Bartonella, because that's probably organism die-off within the body. All right? So if you just all of a sudden, you take this herbal tincture and all of a sudden, boom, you're getting this huge flare-up of your symptoms, that's probably organism die-off happening, and it's a good thing, right? It's called a Herxheimer reaction. You probably know about these. They suck, okay? So if it doesn't work, if it doesn't seem like your symptoms are, changing at all from the herbal tincture, they would say, all right, they were wrong about the Bartonella. They'll try something different. So what it is they're basically challenging the bacteria that's in the body with an herbal tincture to see how it reacts, because they're guessing based on your symptom pattern exactly what infection you're dealing with. All right? And again, it's multiple infections. Lyme disease is multiple infections, and when you can help the body fight what it's already fighting, that's how you win against Lyme disease. And what it's already fighting is shown by the symptoms that you have. So if the doctors can read the symptoms patterns, challenge the symptoms, based on the infection that they think you have, then they can come in and destroy the bacteria, as long as they do the challenge testing right. And it takes vigilance, it takes knowing your patients, it takes understanding the disease. Not a lot of doctors can do this, all right? There are some Lyme disease specialists that are extremely good at it, including Dr. Nicola McFadgen, probably Dr. Klinghardt. I'm sure other doctors can do it as well. However, there's only a handful of doctors that understand Lyme disease and its complexities, right? So that challenge test is something really interesting, and it's more based on symptom patterns and the symptoms we're showing, and not so much based on, give me a piece of paper, give me a lab test that says I have Lyme disease. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure insurance companies cover it the same way. Not sure how all that stuff would work. However, it is a possibility to get treatment through the challenge method, as long as you're talking to a Lyme disease specialist. All right, and now it's time for me to tell you the very best possible test you can take. I have another video where I just talk about the very best test you can take, but in this video we'll touch on it too, and that's PCR testing with Rolfing. All right, Dr. Klinghardt talks about this in New Paradigms in Lyme Disease Treatment, where 10 Lyme disease specialists talk about their best ways for treating Lyme disease now, today, right? It was published in 2016. This is the newest information. Here's what he does. Rolfing. Rolfing is a deep tissue massage, right? It doesn't quite say where on the body they massage. However, what it does is it gets the parasites, it gets those pathogens, those microbes, the bacteria, whatever the heck you want to call them, the Lyme disease bacteria, to come out of hiding, right? It's such a deep tissue massage that it gets this bacteria to come out, and they line the bladder. They line your bladder because they like it in there, and because they're getting forced to by massage. So once they line your bladder, then when you urinate, they're in your urine. All right? So what they do is they get the Rolfing in, they give you that deep tissue massage, and then they have you take a pee test, and then they test the pee, and they found that 99% of the time they can find if you have Lyme disease through this method. So, that's much better than every other test I just mentioned, right? And it's foolproof. It's DNA match of the bacteria, right? This is the exact bacteria that you have within you. None of the other tests do that. They're all measuring things like the body's response to the test. They're measuring things like your blood's response to bacteria, right? They're not measuring, all right, this is the bacteria that's in you, right? How effective would that be if you could just be like, this is the exact bacteria that you're dealing with? All right, so it's huge that that's possible. Now, I doubt that your primary care provider is about to give you a deep tissue massage. And I doubt they're going to start doing this in the emergency room. And I doubt they're going to start doing this in any doctors in America. So, it's cool, it's awesome that it exists. However, finding someone that's going to do it that way is a whole different story, right? I don't even know where to begin with that conversation right now. If you have an idea for how to get doctors to start using Rolfing with PCR testing to treat for to diagnose Lyme disease, comment below. Let's get a conversation around this, guys. Lymies need to be loud. Lymies need to be up. We need to cause awareness around this disease. We need to start talking about this. We need to start continually growing and improving and sharing our successes, getting solution oriented, right? We don't want to be complaining about symptoms all day long. We want to figure out the solutions and get rid of those symptoms, all right? So that's what I'm focusing on here. Let's get the conversation going around this. Comment below, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hey guys, Ryan Kearns here. If you want to heal your Lyme disease, but you don't want to take antibiotics, I have just the thing for you. I wrote this ebook. It's called Lyme Wars: How I Counterattack Lyme Disease Using Herbs, Nutrition, and Healthy Conscious Living. For the time being, it's actually completely free, and all you have to do is go to lifenutrition.com to get your free copy. It'll help you learn how you can use natural living in order to heal yourself from Lyme disease, and I hope you find it useful. Thanks so much for coming to check this out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.